At 0745 hours, June 1, 1940. Over the beaches of Dunkirk in a sky that is more smoke than air. Squadron leader Douglas Bader pushes his Hawker Hurricane to 3,000 feet, eyes scanning the haze for the telltale speck of a Messerschmitt. He is 29 years old. He has been flying combat missions for exactly 4 weeks. 9 years earlier he lost both legs in a crash that should have ended everything. Today he is hunting the most feared fighter in the sky. 300 yards ahead, flying the same direction at almost identical speed, a Bf-109 appears like a gift from the gods. Bader has 400 rounds in his 8 Brownings and empty sky between him and his first kill. What happens in the next 30 seconds will mark the beginning of a legend, and the moment the Luftwaffe learned that some men refused to stay grounded. This is the story of the legless ace who turned tin legs into terror for the Third Reich. Hit that like button right now because this one is about the pilot who should never have flown again, and became one of the deadliest men in the Battle of Britain. Subscribe and turn on notifications. We're climbing with the man who proved the sky belongs to those who refuse to quit. Let's roll. December 14, 1931. Woodley Aerodrome near Reading, Berkshire. The wind is sharp, the sky a cold winter blue. A crowd of Aero Club members and off-duty pilots from nearby RAF stations stand around in tweed coats and scarves, breath fogging, watching the young flight lieutenant from No. 23 Squadron show what a Bristol Bulldog can really do. Douglas Bader, 21, blonde, cocky, already famous for looping the loop tighter than any instructor at Cranwell dared, has been putting on an impromptu air display all afternoon. He has rolled, spun, and dived the little fighter until the crowd is hoarse from cheering. Someone, history never records exactly who, makes the bet over a pint the night before. Bader can't slow roll below 500 feet. Regulations forbid aerobatics under 2,000. Bader laughs, that quick, reckless laugh everyone at 23 Squadron knows means trouble, and says, "Watch me." He climbs in, straps the Sutton harness tight, pulls on his gloves. The Bulldog's Bristol Mercury engine coughs, catches, settles into a steady roar. He taxis out, turns into wind, opens the throttle. The little fighter leaps forward, tail up almost instantly, and climbs away with the effortless grace of a bird. The crowd watches him circle once, twice, gaining height. Then he rolls inverted at 1,000 feet, pulls through into a perfect loop, comes out wings level and diving. He levels at exactly 200 feet, low enough that the slipstream flattens the grass along the runway edge, and enters the slow roll. The Bulldog rolls left, lazy and perfect, wings flashing silver in the winter sun. Halfway through, the left wingtip clips the ground. There is no time for anyone to react. The fighter cartwheels, port wing folding like paper, undercarriage ripping away, propeller chewing earth. It flips once, twice, then slams belly first into the frozen field and explodes in a bloom of orange flame and black smoke. Petrol and oil ignite instantly. The wreckage slides 50 yards, carving a furrow through the grass, before coming to rest on its back, burning fiercely. Men are already running. Fire extinguishers appear as if by magic. Someone has the presence of mind to grab a blanket. They reach the cockpit in seconds, beating at the flames with coats and bare hands. The canopy is jammed, half crushed. They wrench it open with a crowbar someone produces from nowhere. Bader is still conscious. His face is white, eyes wide, but he is conscious. Blood pours from a gash above his eye. His right leg is twisted at an impossible angle, bone protruding through the flying boot. The left is simply gone below the knee, a red ruin of meat and fabric. He looks at the first man to reach him, Flight Lieutenant Harry Day, who will one day command prisoners at Colditz, and manages a crooked grin through blood-flecked teeth. "Bad show," he whispers. "Rather mucked it up." Then he passes out. They carry him to the ambulance on a stretcher made from coats and scarves. The journey to Royal Berkshire Hospital in Reading takes 20 minutes that feel like hours. The doctors there have seen crashes before, but nothing like this. The right leg is crushed beyond salvation, femur splintered in a dozen places, tibia and fibula powdered, foot almost severed. The left is mangled meat held together by skin and flying boot. Shock has set in. Blood loss is massive. J. Leonard Joyce, the surgeon on duty, takes one look and knows what has to be done. He amputates the right leg that afternoon, high on the thigh to give the best chance for a prosthetic. 3 days later, infection sets in, gas gangrene, the silent killer of the pre-antibiotic age. Joyce takes the left leg too, one above the knee, one below. When Bader wakes properly for the first time, both legs are gone. He is 21 years old. His flying career is over before it began. The RAF Medical Board is gentle but final when they visit in March 1932. The regulations are clear. No pilot may fly without full use of all four limbs. The risk is too great. A man with prosthetic legs cannot operate rudder pedals reliably in combat conditions. He cannot bail out safely, the straps, the parachute harness, the danger of the artificial limbs catching in the cockpit. They thank him for his service, award him a full disability pension and close the file. Bader listens without expression, then asks for his logbook. The nurse brings it. He opens to the last page, writes in a hand that barely trembles. Crashed slow rolling near ground. Bad show. Then he closes the book and begins the long, painful process of learning to live without legs. For 8 years he refuses to accept the verdict. He learns to walk on tin legs, aluminum and leather, custom-made by Horder and Company in London, painful as hell. The first pair are crude, heavy, rubbing sores that never quite heal. He falls constantly, catches himself on furniture, on walls, on strangers who reach out in pity he refuses to acknowledge. He learns to drive a modified MG with hand controls, left hand for clutch and brake, right for throttle and gear stick. He plays golf with a single-digit handicap, swinging from a stance no textbook ever taught. He dances without a cane, moving with a stiff, determined grace that makes women forget the metal beneath his trousers. He joins Shell Oil in 1933, starts as a clerk, rises fast because he works harder than anyone else and refuses to let the prosthetics slow him. He marries Thelma Edwards in 1937, a quiet ceremony, her hand steady on his arm as they walk down the aisle, his steps measured but sure. They buy a house in Kent, fill it with dogs and laughter and the smell of pipe tobacco. He learns to fly again in secret, borrowing a friend's moth, taking off from a private strip with no one watching, proving to himself the sky has not forgotten him even if the RAF has. But every night he dreams of flight. When Germany invades Poland on September 1, 1939, Bader is 30 years old, managing Shell's aviation department, comfortable, respected, safe. He does not stay safe. He storms every RAF contact he has, Cranwell classmates now group captains, squadron mates now wing commanders, anyone who remembers the cocky kid who could loop a bulldog tighter than anyone. He demands reinstatement. The Air Ministry says no. Then maybe. Then, finally, a medical flight test. November 1939, Central Flying School. The examiners expect a cripple. They get a demon. Bader flies loops, rolls, stall turns, spins, recoveries, everything the book says a man with no legs cannot do. He lands so smoothly the tower controller asks if he's been practicing in secret. The chief examiner marks him exceptional and adds a note. This man flies as if the aircraft is part of him. The RAF has no regulation for double amputee pilots because no one has ever tried. They clear him in February 1940 with a special waiver signed by Air Marshal Dowding himself. First posting, number 19 Squadron at Duxford. Spitfires. 4 weeks later he is over Dunkirk on his first combat patrol. June 1, 1940. The Messerschmitt ahead never sees him. Bader closes to 300 yards, thumbs the gun button. 8 Brownings roar. Tracers walk up the 109's fuselage. The canopy shatters. The German rolls left, drops toward the channel trailing smoke. First confirmed kill. The war has just met its most unlikely ace. And the legend of the Legless fighter pilot begins. First confirmed kill. The Messerschmitt rolls left and drops toward the channel trailing smoke and glycol, the pilot fighting for his life in a cockpit filling with fire. Bader watches it go, feels nothing but the cold satisfaction of a job done, then climbs back to rejoin his section. The other pilots in 19 Squadron are stunned, not just by the kill, but by the calm voice on the R/T announcing it, the same voice that belongs to the squadron leader who has no legs. Word spreads like wildfire across the Duxford mess that night. The Legless wonder has drawn first blood. 2 weeks later Bader is given number 242 Squadron at Coltishall. 242 is a wreck. Mostly Canadians, fresh from the debacle in France where they lost half their pilots and most of their aircraft covering the retreat to Dunkirk and then the evacuation beaches. They have come home angry, bitter, and convinced the war is already lost. Their Hurricanes are patched together with spit and prayer. Some still carry French mud on the undercarriage. Spare parts are mythical. Morale is lower than the cloud base. Bader walks into the mess on his tin legs, clack-clack across the wooden floor, every eye turning to watch the new CO who moves like a man who has never heard the word can't. He is 30 years old, wearing the ribbon of the DFC he earned in those 4 weeks over Dunkirk, and he looks like he has come to start a fight. He stands at the front of the room, surveys the defeated faces, and speaks in that crisp public school voice that cuts through cigarette smoke like a knife. My name is Bader. I have no legs. You have no aeroplanes. Between us we should make a pretty good team. We are going to war. Then he refuses to accept operational status until every Hurricane is 100% serviceable. The group captain at Coltishall tries to argue. The squadron is needed now. The Luftwaffe is already across the channel in strength. Bader stares him down with those ice blue eyes and says, "Send us up half-cocked and we'll be dead in a week. Fix the bloody aircraft." Parts arrive within 48 hours. No one, from Air Ministry to Stores Sergeant, wants to be the man who tells the Legless squadron leader his squadron isn't ready. Mechanics work around the clock. Bader is everywhere, in the hangars at dawn, watching every patch and repair, climbing ladders on his tin legs to inspect wing routes himself. By the end of June, 242 squadron is whole again. By July it is lethal. The Battle of Britain has begun. German bombers cross the channel daily in waves of 50, 100, 200, escorted by Messerschmitts that still believe the sky belongs to them. Bader develops the big wing, massed formations of 3, 4, sometimes 5 squadrons launched together as one hammer blow. The theory is simple. Instead of dribbling fighters into the sky in penny packets, hit the enemy with overwhelming force at the decisive moment. Critics, Lee Mallory's rivals at 11 Group, Park and doubting themselves, call it reckless. It takes too long to assemble. It leaves sectors uncovered. It burns fuel. Bader calls it the only way to hurt the Luftwaffe badly enough to matter. He proves it almost every day. On August 30, 1940, he leads 12 Hurricanes of 242 against 100 German aircraft over Essex. Due 17s, he 111s, escorted by 30 Bf 109s. The Canadians follow him down in a perfectly timed dive that catches the bombers cold. In 15 minutes of furious combat, 242 claims 12 kills, 10 bombers, 2 fighters, and loses nobody. The mess that night is a riot of shouting, backslapping Canadians who have just remembered how to win. Bader's artificial legs give him an edge no one expected. In high G turns other pilots black out as blood drains from their brains to their legs. Bader's tin legs can't pool blood. He stays conscious longer, turns harder, presses attacks when others see gray tunnels closing in. He discovers it by accident over Dover when a 109 tries to outturn him in a descending spiral. The German pilot blacks out first. Bader does not. The 109 spins in. Bader pulls out at 500 feet and climbs away wondering why the world never went dark. By August 1941 he has 23 confirmed victories, 5th highest in fighter command, a DSO, a DFC in bar, and command of the Tangmere Wing, 3 squadrons, 48 fighters. He is 30 years old and the most famous pilot in Britain after the king himself. The Germans know his call sign Dog's Body. They study his tactics. They know the aggressive wing commander who leads large formations over France and always attacks, never defends. And on August 9, 1941, 30,000 feet above northern France, they are waiting. The Tangmere Wing crosses the coast at 30,000 feet, 48 Spitfires hunting for blood. The sky is empty blue, visibility unlimited. Perfect hunting weather. Bader spots 12 Bf 109 FS climbing 4,000 feet below, still in the sun. He calls the tally, pushes his Spitfire MKV into a dive that rapidly builds to 450 miles per hour. The mathematics of aerial combat favor him. Altitude, speed, surprise. He closes on the rearmost 109, fires a 3-second burst from 200 yards. The Messerschmitt explodes, coolant and fuel mixing in a white cloud. Bader pulls up hard, searches for another target, finds one turning left at his 11 o'clock. He turns inside the German's radius, fires again. The 109's tail disintegrates. The pilot bails out, parachute opening like a white flower against the blue. 2 kills in 90 seconds. Then something slams into his Spitfire from behind. The impact is catastrophic. Metal tears with a sound like canvas ripping. The aircraft lurches violently right. Bader looks back. His vertical stabilizer is gone. Half the port tailplane is missing. The Spitfire flips inverted and enters a spin so violent the G-forces pin him to his seat. He reaches for the canopy jettison handle, pulls. The hood flies away. Wind blast at 400 miles per hour slams into him like a train. He releases the harness pin, tries to stand. His right prosthetic leg is jammed solid between seat and control column. The spin has wedged it tighter than a vice. 25,000 feet. 20,000. 15,000. The altimeter unwinds like a clock running backward. The French countryside is a green and brown patchwork rushing up to kill him. He has seconds. Bader makes his decision. He unbuckles the leather strap holding the prosthetic to his thigh, leaves the artificial leg jammed in the cockpit, and pushes upward with everything he has. The parachute's opening shock rips him clear. The strap snaps under the strain. He tumbles free as his Spitfire falls away beneath him, still carrying his right leg. He watches it go, a strange calm settling over him. The wind roars in his ears. The ground is coming up fast. He pulls the ripcord. The canopy blooms white above him. For a moment he is weightless, floating in blue silence. He lands in a freshly plowed field near Street Omer with one leg missing, captured within minutes by a patrol of German soldiers who stare in disbelief at the British wing commander who has just fallen from the sky minus half a limb. The legless ace is a prisoner. But the legend has only just begun. The legend of the legless ace begins its second act. Bader lands hard in a plowed field near Street Omer, rolling twice before the parachute collapses around him. His remaining leg, the left one, is bruised but functional. The right ends in a leather cuff and a ragged strap. French farm workers and German soldiers reach him at the same moment. The soldiers stare at the empty space where a leg should be, then at the calm Englishman who is already trying to stand. Within the hour he is in the Luftwaffe hospital at St. Omer, a converted school building with Red Cross flags on the roof and the smell of carbolic everywhere. The German doctors are professional, almost gentle. They clean his wounds, stitch the cuts on his face, set the bruised ribs. Then they notice the left prosthetic. They call an interpreter. Questions follow. Both legs? Since when? How do you fly? Bader answers in clipped, perfect sentences. December 31. Bristol Bulldog. Yes, both legs. Yes, I fly fighters. Yes, I shot down 23 of your lot before you got lucky. The Oberarzt does not believe him until Bader's paybook and DSO ribbon are produced from his tunic pocket. The doctor leaves the room pale. That evening Adolf Galland arrives. 30 years old, commander of Jagerschwader 26 Schlageter, 94 confirmed kills, the third highest scoring ace in the Luftwaffe. He has heard the British radio announcements about the legless wing commander, but thought it propaganda. He walks into the ward in his perfectly tailored tunic, removes his cap, and studies Bader with the cool curiosity of one predator measuring another. He speaks good English. You are the Tangmere wing leader. I was. You shot down 2 of my pilots this morning. Possibly. I was busy. Galland smiles, the thin smile of a man who respects a worthy enemy. What do you need? Bader does not hesitate. A new leg. The right one is still in my Spitfire. Galland nods once as if this is the most reasonable request in the world. I will see what can be arranged. He is as good as his word. 2 days after Galland's visit, a terse message goes out through the Red Cross channels in Geneva, translated into careful German and careful English. Wing Commander Douglas Bader, RAF, prisoner of war at St. Omer Hospital, requires replacement right leg prosthesis. Luftwaffe guarantees safe passage for 1 British aircraft to drop the item by parachute over St. Omer/Longness airfield on August 19 between 09:30 and 11:30 hours Central European Time. No interception. No anti-aircraft fire will be directed at the dropping aircraft. Coordinates and recognition signals follow. The message is signed by Oberstleutnant Adolf Galland, Geschwader Commodore JG-26. It reaches RAF Fighter Command at 11 Group Headquarters, Bentley Priory, on the morning of August 12, 1941. Air Vice Marshal Trafford Lee Mallory, commander of 11 Group, Bader's old boss, the man who championed the big wing, reads it twice, then allows himself a slow wolfish grin that makes his staff officers step back half a pace. Lee Mallory knows Bader well, knows the stubborn, brilliant, impossible man who turned 242 Squadron from a rabble into a weapon in 6 weeks. He also knows that Circus 81, a major bomber escort operation targeting the power stations at Gosnay and Bruay near Bethune, is already scheduled for the 19th Street. Omer is 20 statute miles north-northeast of Bethune. Close enough. He summons his staff. We are going to deliver Douglas his bloody leg, he says, and while we're in the neighborhood we are going to knock out 2 power stations the Luftwaffe rather likes having. No one argues. August 19, 1941. The weather is perfect, high scattered cloud, unlimited visibility, light wind. At RAF West Malling 6 Bristol Blenheim MKIVs of 110 Squadron warm up on the dispersal, engines popping and coughing in the dawn chill. One of them, WVF, carries an extra passenger in the bomb bay, a stout wooden crate lined with kapok and marked in neat white stenciling. Property of Wing Commander Drs Bader DSO DFC RAF. Handle with care, medical supplies. Inside, 1 brand new right leg prosthesis, custom-made by J.E. Hanger and Company of London, the same firm that built Bader's originals in 1932. Leather thigh bucket, articulated knee joint, aluminium shank, rubber foot, plus 2 pairs of thick RAF issue socks, spare straps, a tin of dubbin, 2 packets of Player's Navy Cut, a pound of Cadbury's milk chocolate, and a note in Lee Mallory's own handwriting. To the German Flight Commander, St. Omer. Please deliver to Winko Bader, RAF POW. With compliments, and mind you treat him properly, he's worth more than half your bloody Jeschwader. Till Lee Mallory, A/V/M. The pilot of WVF is Flight Sergeant Charles Nick Nicholson, 23 years old, from Toronto, already with 1 tour behind him and a calm voice that never rises above a conversational murmur no matter how many 109s are on his tail. Escort, 48 Spitfires from 485 New Zealand, 452 Australian, and 602 City of Glasgow, squadrons. Takeoff is at 8:47. They cross the French coast at Cap Grisnez at 9:15, climbing steadily to 15,000 feet. German radar picks them up immediately. At St. Omer/Longness Airfield, Adolphe Galland stands on the balcony of the control tower in his flying overalls, watching the sky with field glasses. His pilots are at cockpit readiness, engines warm, but under strict orders. No one takes off until the crate is on the ground. At 9:38 Nicholson's formation appears out of the haze, 6 Blenheims in perfect Vic, Spitfires orbiting protectively above. Nicholson descends to 3,000 feet, opens the bomb bay and releases the crate. A small white parachute blossoms. The crate drifts down, landing with a soft thud on the grass beside the main runway, exactly where the recognition panels have been laid out. German ground crew run out waving, some are laughing, some are taking photographs. One sergeant picks up the crate, salutes toward the disappearing Blenheims, and carries it inside like a trophy. Nicholson closes the bomb doors, reforms his squadron, and turns southeast toward Bethune. 20 minutes later, the power stations at Gosnay and Bruay disappear under sticks of 250-pounders. The Luftwaffe scrambles everything it has. The safe passage agreement was for St. Omer only. Galland's 109s tear into the Blenheims on the way home. The Spitfires meet them head-on. The sky over Pas-de-Calais becomes a swirling dogfight that lasts 40 minutes. 3 Blenheims are shot down. 2 Spitfires fail to return. Galland himself claims one of the escorts. When it is over, he lands, storms into the operations room, and telephones Luftwaffe High Command in a cold fury. They used our chivalry as cover for a bombing raid. The staff officer on the other end is apologetic but firm. The agreement specified only the drop zone. At St. Omer Hospital that afternoon, an orderly carries the crate to Bader's room. Bader opens it, lifts out the new leg, lighter, better jointed, the leather still smelling of the workshop. He straps it on, stands, takes 3 experimental steps. Perfect. He looks at the German doctor who has been watching open-mouthed. Tell Galland thank you, he says. And tell him next time we meet it'll be over Berlin. 5 days later, Bader escapes. He has spent the time studying the guard routine, the window latches, the drain pipe outside. At 0200 on August 24th, he ties 4 bedsheets together, knots them with the precision of a man who has tied himself into cockpits for years, secures one end to the iron bedstead, and lowers himself into the night. The new leg works perfectly. He is halfway down, 15 feet to go, when a hospital orderly on a cigarette break spots the white rope against the wall and raises the alarm. Searchlights snap on. Shouts in German. Boots pounding. Bader is 10 feet from the ground when hands grab the sheet and haul him back upwards like a sack of potatoes. He is deposited back in his room, breathless but grinning. The commandant, a weary major who has clearly never dealt with a prisoner quite like this, arrives at dawn. You are being transferred, he says. Immediately. To a camp designed for officers who do not know when to stop escaping. Bader salutes with 2 fingers. Colditz, I presume? The major does not deny it. Auflage 4C, Colditz Castle, is a Renaissance fortress perched on a cliff above the River Mulde in Saxony, 7-foot thick walls, windows barred with iron, guard-to-prisoner ratio 1:1, the Reich's answer to the question, how do you keep the unkeepable kept? The inmates are the worst of the worst. Serial escapers, forgers, tunnel diggers, men who have broken out of every other camp in Germany. The senior British officer is Lieutenant Colonel Willie Todd, who flew with Bader in 23 Squadron before the crash. When Bader clanks into the courtyard on his tin legs, Todd greets him with a huge grin and a crushing handshake. Welcome to the club, Douglas. We've been expecting you. Bader spends the rest of the war trying to escape anyway. 4 attempts. All detected. All failed. The guards take his legs every night at lights out and return them at reveille, standard procedure for the castle's most dangerous resident. Bader still finds ways to make their lives hell. He argues about Red Cross parcels. He lectures captured German officers on fighter tactics. He refuses to stand for anyone who does not stand for him first. He becomes the camp's unofficial morale officer, the man who proves that even in Colditz you can still give the Germans a bloody nose. On April 16, 1945, American tanks from the 69th Infantry Division roll up to the castle gates. The German guards have already fled. The prisoners open the doors themselves. Bader walks out on his tin legs into the spring sunshine, stiff-backed, cap tilted at the perfect angle, looking for all the world like he is inspecting the Americans rather than being liberated by them. An American lieutenant asks how long he's been a prisoner. 3 years, 8 months, and 1 week. The lieutenant glances at the prosthetics. And the legs. Lost them in 31. Been flying without them since 40. The lieutenant just stares. Bader grins. Care for a lift to the nearest airfield, old boy? I've got a date with London. And that is how the legend of the Legless Ace ends its second act. Not with a whimper in a prison cell, but walking out of Colditz on tin legs to meet the tanks that have come to take him home. Welcome to the Bad Boys Club, Douglas. Bader spends the rest of the war trying to escape anyway. 4 attempts. All detected. All failed. The first is a tunnel from the chapel cellar, discovered when a guard hears scratching. The second is a forged German uniform and papers, betrayed by a suspicious sentry. The third is a homemade glider built in the attic, never flown. The war ends first. The fourth is another bedsheet rope, this time from a different window, cut short when a searchlight catches him halfway down the wall. Every night the guards confiscate his legs at lights out and return them at reveille. Bader still finds ways to make their lives hell. He argues with the commandant about Red Cross parcels. He organizes lectures on flying tactics. He refuses to stand for German officers unless they stand for him first. He becomes the camp's unofficial morale officer, the man who proves that even in Colditz you can still give the Germans a bloody nose. On April 16, 1945, American tanks from the 69th Infantry Division roll up to the castle gates. The German guards have already fled. The prisoners open the doors themselves. Bader walks out on his tin legs to meet the Americans, stiff-backed, cap tilted at the perfect angle, looking for all the world like he is inspecting them. An American lieutenant asks how long he's been a prisoner. 3 years, 8 months, and 1 week. The lieutenant glances at the prosthetics. And the legs. Lost them in 31. Been flying without them since 40. The lieutenant just stares. Bader grins. Care for a lift to the nearest airfield, old boy? He leads the Victory flypast over London on June 15, 1945, 300 aircraft in perfect formation, Hurricanes, Spitfires, Tempests, Typhoons, the Legless Ace at the front in a Spitfire Mk9, leading the flypast over Buckingham Palace while the crowd of 500,000 roars itself hoarse. He retires from the RAF in February 1946 with the rank of Group Captain, a chest full of medals, and the quiet knowledge that he has done what no medical board believed possible. He returns to Shell, becomes Managing Director of Shell Aircraft Ltd., flies the world in company Dakotas and Comets, plays golf off a single-digit handicap until he is 70, dances without a cane, drives fast cars with hand controls, and spends the rest of his life proving that disability is just another word for challenge accepted. He founds the Douglas Bader Foundation, visits amputee wards, tells shell-shocked young men who have lost limbs in Korea or road accidents that if a double amputee can shoot down 23 Germans and lead a wing, they can bloody well learn to walk again. He becomes Sir Douglas in 1976. He dies on September 5, 1982 after a dinner honoring Bomber Harris, heart attack, quick and clean, the way a fighter pilot would want to go. 72 years old. At his funeral, the RAF gives him a missing man formation overhead. Adolf Galland, retired General Lieutenant, 94 kills, the man who once sent him a leg by parachute, sends a wreath from Germany. To a great fighter pilot and a greater man. Because sometimes the most dangerous enemy a man can face is the word, impossible. And Douglas Bader spent his entire life proving it wrong. If this story of the Legless Ace who refused to stay grounded hit you the way it hits us every time we stand on that runway at Tangmere in our minds, do 3 things right now. Smash that like button. Every like tells the algorithm to show this to someone who needs to know that tin legs can still kick the Luftwaffe's ass. Subscribe and hit the bell. We bring you these stories every week. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from, and had you ever heard of Douglas Bader before today? Because the man who turned can't into 23 kills and a legend deserves more than a footnote. He showed the world that some men don't need legs to stand taller than anyone else. Lock in. This is Wartime Zone. We'll see you in the next fight.